You there, Miss Kendra?
It's non-stop people on me. It's hard for me to see the numbers.
I know it is. You know, you're supposed to get the prescription changed every year. Every year. Go back to
I
the.
just got these this year.
Okay. Well, you need to go back.
Last year.
Can't be on your nose. Your nose don't need to.
They're made for reading, but then I can't see you with one.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I have to look over them.
All right. So that's probably your problem, is that your glasses is on your nose. Anyway, let's go ahead and do it. Chapter 5, the medical record. Okay, it says reading is essential, especially on this kind of material. Okay, so we'll do a lot of reading today. We'll popcorn read. We'll start with Miss Banks and work our way down and up. Okay, so here we go. The medical records are a crucial part of a medical practice. A medical record is a written record of the important information regarding a patient, including the care that individual and that individual and the progress of his or her condition. A patient is defined as an individual receiving medical care. Be able to define both of those things. Okay, that a medical record is literally a written record of care that we give a patient, and then a patient is somebody who is receiving individual medical care. Okay, be able to define both of those things. Okay, goes on to say the patient's medical record serves many important functions. The physician uses the information in the medical record as a basis for decisions regarding the patient's care and treatment. The medical record documents the results of treatment and the patient's progress. The medical record provides an efficient and effective method by which information can be communicated to authorized personnel in the medical office. The medical record also serves as a legal document. Highlight, underline that. That's right. Medical record also serves as a legal document. The law requires that a record be maintained to document the care and treatment being received by a patient. If something goes wrong, good documentation works to protect the physician and the medical staff legally. Incomplete records could be used as evidence in court to show that a patient did not receive the quality of care that meets generally accepted standards. The medical assistant must always keep in mind that the information contained in the patient's the medical assistant must always keep in mind that the information contained in a patient's medical record is strictly confidential and must not be read by or discussed with anyone except the physician or medical staff involved with the care of the patient. See the highlight of HIPAA privacy rule. You guys should already know what HIPAA stands for. Who remembers what HIPAA stands for? We did go over it.
Health insurance, portability, and accountability.
A health insurance portability and accountability act. Okay, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And you know, it's so interesting because a lot of people think that it's a lot of people think that it's HIPAA, and a lot of people think that it's the Health Insurance Privacy Act. Okay, or Health Informed Privacy Act. There's actually nowhere in the name does it say privacy. But as medical assistants, we need to understand that HIPAA expands not just on privacy, but on your ability and your right to have it, so to speak. Goes into a lot of different things. Okay. So I want to read this highlight. Okay. And when I read this highlight, then you guys are going to jump off from here. So here we go. The highlight on the HIPAA privacy rule. What is the HIPAA privacy rule? The acronym HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Remember that. Okay? HIPAA is a federal law consisting of several components, one of which contains provisions to protect the patient's privacy, known as the HIPAA privacy rule. The HIPAA privacy rule went into effect on April 14, 2003. The primary purpose Oh, okay. No one cares. The primary purpose of this rule is to provide patients with better control over the use and the disclosure of their health information. All healthcare providers, health plans, and healthcare clearinghouses, for example, billing services that use, store, maintain, or transmit health information, must comply with this rule. I want to break that down really quick to say that everyone involved with your care, from the physician to the CNA to the janitor that comes inside of your room, has to follow HIPAA. Okay? Everybody has to follow HIPAA. Even when we go and we store these hundreds of archived medical records of people who died or people who are no longer patients, blah, 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 we still have to treat this as we still have to treat this with the HIPAA privacy rule. Okay, at every single level. Know that HIPAA goes everywhere involved in the patient's health information. Let's make this relevant. Let's make this fresh. You guys have heard about maybe lately the gun control policies that our president has put out, okay, and has tried to influence laws for, and so on and so forth. Okay, and obviously there's been a lot of controversy regarding that, whether gun control is necessary, whether we need stricter gun control, whether stricter gun control violates someone's Second Amendment, but more specifically here, a lot of what they have suggested is that people who have mental health issues shouldn't be able to buy a gun. And whether you believe in that or not, okay, one of the hugest issues that they're running into when they think about the background checks for the people is to include a medical background check. However, that medical background check violates HIPAA. To share someone's mental health information, period, violates HIPAA, an already existing law. So how do you work into gun control HIPAA laws? Okay, and so we just kind of need to understand that HIPAA is what we call ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It applies to all American citizens. Okay, over your health information. Privacy is important. Okay, I want you to continue to read about that, but let's go ahead and talk about the components of medical records. Okay, the components of medical records. Someone else read for me.
A medical record consists of numerous documents. Each document in the medical record has a specific function or purpose. Most of these documents are pre-printed forms or computer templates that contain specific information entered by a physician or other health professionals. A large variety of forms or templates which are available. The type of form or template used is based on the specific requirements of each medical office. Medical record documents can be classified into categories. Each of these categories is outlined in the box on page 200, along with the specific documents included in each. It is important that the medical assistant be familiar with each type of document in the medical record. A description of the function or purpose of each type of medical record document follows by category, along with the specific information that each contains.
Turn the page and continue to read on into medical office and administrative documents.
Administrative documents contain information necessary for the efficient record keeping management of the medical office. Medical office administrative documents include the patient registration card and patient-related correspondence. The patient registration record consists of demographic and billing information. All new patients must complete a patient registration record form. After the patient completes the registration record, the medical assistant enters the information into a computer. This allows the demographic and billing information to be used for numerous computerized functions, such as scheduling appointments, posting patient transactions, and processing patient statements and insurance claims. With a paper-based patient record, PPR, The original patient registration record is then usually placed in the front of the patient's medical record. With an electronic medical record, EMR, the original registration record is usually shredded.
Very good. Let's talk about that really quick. Let's talk about the patient registration record. Okay. Particularly with the patient registration record, I want you to first know that all new patients must have one, must fill out. When you have a manual medical record, I don't know if you've ever been to the doctor before, or if you haven't been to the doctor before, you can look at Figure 5 Tac 1. It shows us an example of a patient registration form. Of course, it's going to have that basic information about you. Last name, first name, middle initial. Whether you are employed, what is your relationship status, single, married, divorced, whatever, widow. Okay? Emergency contact information. Insurance information, so on and so forth. This is basic administrative information that we need for all patients. But here's what I want you to know specifically about when we file. If we have a manual medical record, or we're utilizing a manual medical record, that PPR needs to be filed in Part 1. Okay, Part 1, or the front of the medical record. Sometimes you have medical records that have different parts. Okay, have you ever seen a multi-sleeve folder? Which, let's say, all right, so you have these bifolders, okay, and the bifolders just have two sides, okay. But other times you have like a trifolder or a 6-part folder, in which to say that you open it up, okay, you can turn and you can turn again. All right, and sometimes you have different medical records. So for that reason, I want you to know that a PPR needs to be filed at the front of the medical records.
And that's the paper patient record?
Yes, paper-based patient record. Paper-based. Now with EMR stands for electronic medical records. They still fill out a registration form. Okay. However, when they fill that out and they bring that to you, what you're going to do is you're going to upload that information into your online medical record system. For example, ClaimGear. Okay. And then once you are done with that paper registration form that you gave them, okay, then you will shred that. Shred it immediately afterwards. Okay. Of course, make sure you have all the information from it. Okay. Don't shred it and you're like, oh man, I forgot the insurance. That's pretty important. Make sure double, triple check it, and then go ahead and shred that. Okay. Ms. Hendricks, let's talk about demographic information. Page 184. And read all the way down to correspondence.
Demographic information. Demographic information required on patient registration form includes the following: full name, address, telephone number, home and work, date of birth, gender, marital status, and employment. Billing information is required to bill charges to the patient of an insurance company. Billing information required on a patient registration form includes the following: name of responsible party, person responsible for the account, social security number, address of responsible party, name of insured, policy holder, insurance company, policy number, and root number. NPP, acknowledgement, a notice of privacy practice, is a written document that explains to a patient how their protected health information will be used and protected by the medical office. The patient must sign a form acknowledging that he or she has received the NPP. The NPP form is then filed in the patient's chart. Correspondence. Correspondence is an important part of the medical record. Correspondence regarding a patient may be received from various individuals or facilities, such as the patient's insurance company, the patient's attorney, and the patient himself or herself. Insurance correspondence includes such documents as pre-certification, authorization for hospital admission, and request for additional information from the insurance company. Correspondence also includes copies of letters concerning the patient that are sent out of the office. Examples are a copy of a letter referring to the patient as to a specialist and a copy of the collection letter sent to the patient. Medical office clinical documents include.
Pause.
Okay.
I want to stop the correspondence. Okay, let's talk about this. Basically, what we just went over is necessary information that is required for a patient registration form. So let's say that you don't have a patient registration template to use. What if you don't? You still need to, of course, if you're starting a new office or something like that with your doctor, and you're the office manager or something like that, you need to know what critical information that you need on this necessary patient information or patient registration form. And so it went on to tell us that in either the PPR, just paper-based patient record, or the EMR, electronic medical record, we have to have some of the following things. The demographic info, which is, of course, what is your name? What is your address? Who are you married to? Okay. Date of birth, gender, your employer, all of that basic personal information that applies to them. And then we need to know how we're going to get paid. So we got to figure out all of the billing information as well. And so involved with billing, okay, is that social security number. We need to make sure that we have that social security number. Now, make sure that we have, let's say that you're working at a pediatric office, okay? Obviously, that little 4-year-old isn't responsible for his own bills, so thus we need to know who's responsible for those bills. Okay. If anyone. Of course, the name of the insured, which is generally going to be the same sometimes as that policy or as that patient. But as you guys have done claim here in the past, you know that sometimes the name of the policyholder, the name of the person holding the insurance, is different from the name of the patient. Like, for example, my kids, Channing and Ethan, okay, they have TRICARE. All right, they have TRICARE. So my kids, when they go in and they go to the doctor's office, of course, their name, Channing and Maya Brown, whatever, that's her name. So Channing and Maya Brown is listed under patient, but I am listed under policyholder, Preston C. Brown. They put my social, okay? Because if they send her social there, they're going to be like, well, I mean, we don't have anybody with this insurance as a policy. So we need to make sure we have that necessary information. And then NPP, this is very, 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 very important. NPP is a notice of privacy, I think, privacy practices. Okay, this is basically that acknowledgement form saying you understand that you have the right to privacy. Okay, just like you guys know with cops, they have to read you your Miranda rights, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's the same with medicine, except we have to let you know and give you the opportunity to read about your HIPAA related, your HIPAA rights. Even in emergency rooms, we see that one of the very, when you go up there, you sign in, you're also signing a HIPAA privacy practices, okay? And that is always filed and kept inside of the patient medical record. That is necessary and critical. Have to have it. All right, and then finally, there's going to be correspondence. So whether the patient has mailed you something or maybe information regarding that patient, the insurance company has mailed you saying this patient is no longer eligible for care under us. We need to keep that stuff, okay? And that's listed under correspondence. So medical office clinical documents. Continue on, Ms. Hendry.
Okay. Medical office clinical documents include a variety of records and reports that assist the physician in the care and treatment of the patient. Common medical office clinical documents are listed and described next.
Someone else, Ms. Sims.
A health history report is a collection of subjective data about the patient. Most of this information is obtained by having the patient complete a pre-printed form that is then reviewed for completeness by the medical assistant. Some of the information included in the health history is obtained by the physician or medical assistant by interviewing the patient. Along with the physical examination and laboratory and diagnostic tests, the health history is used for the following reasons: to determine the patient's general state of health, to arrive at a diagnosis, and to prescribe treatment, and to document any change in patient's illness after treatment has been instituted. The term diagnosis refers to the scientific method of determining and identifying a patient's condition. A thorough history of personal health is obtained for each new patient.
Pause. Okay, remember where it said, just that last sentence where it said the term diagnosis? Highlight that sentence, write it down. The term diagnosis refers to a scientific method. This is not just a lucky guess. Okay, a scientific method of determining and identifying a patient's condition. Continue.
And subsequent office visits provide additional information regarding changes in the patient's condition or treatment. A complete discussion of the health history report is presented later in this chapter.
Continue.
Physical examination report. A physical examination is an assessment of each part of the patient's body. The purpose of the physical examination is to provide objective data about the patient, which assists the physician in determining the patient's state of health. The physician examination report is a summary of the physician's findings from the assessment of each part of the patient's body and includes the following: general appearance, head and neck, eyes, ears, nose, mouth and pharynx, arms and hands, chest and lungs, heart, breast, abdomen, genitalia and rectum, legs and feet.
Okay. Mr. Harris.
Progress. Progress notes involve updating the medical record with new information each time the patient visits or telephone in the medical office. Progress note serves to document the patient's health status from one visit to the next. It is important that the date and time be included with each progress note, along with a signature and credentials of the individual making the entry. All those discussions of charting progress notes is present later in this chapter, presented later in this chapter. Medication record. A medication record consists of detailed information related to the patient's medication. The record may include one or more of the following categories: prescription medication, over-the-counter, OTC medication, and medication administered at the hospital at the medical office. Most medical offices use one or more record prescription and OTC medication and other forms to report medication administrated to the patient at the medical office.
Very good. Mr. Terrell, take over.
Well, I'm just kidding. Oh, was it funny?
So
No.
A prescriptions and over-the-counter medication record form. A medication record form for recording the patient's prescriptions and OTC medication include the following: patient's name and date of birth, drug allergies, date the patient began taking the medication, name of the medication, the dosage, frequency of administration of the medication, route or route of administration, refill, prescription medication only, date the patient stopped taking medication. Medication administration record forms. A form that's recorded medication administration to the patient to the medical office. It includes the following: patient's name and date of birth, drug allergies, name of medication, dose administrative, route administration, injection site, date administration, manufacturer, lot number, comma, and expiration date of medication. Signature and credentials, or whatever that word is, of the individual, administration of medication. Consultation reports. A consultation report is a narrative report of the clinical opinion about a patient's condition by a practitioner other than a primary physician, known as an consultant. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The consultant is usually a specialist in a certain field in medicine. E.g., whatever that word is, and that word, and that word.
False.
Cardiology.
Cardiology, endocrinology, urology.
I knew the endo part, I just didn't know the other part.
Sound it out.
All right,
Bring it back to hook on phonics.
I got ABC Mouse at the house. And the consultative opinions of the patient conditions is based on the review of the patient's records and examination of the patient. The consultation report must include the following: documentation of the consultant review the patient health history, documentation that the consultant examined the patient, a report of the consultant impression, any care or treatment provided by the consultant. Am I saying that right? It just don't sound right on my tongue. It doesn't sound like that. Okay.
Might just be you.
That's fine. I've been called that before.
Just kidding.
I've been called that before.
Go ahead. I'm just kidding. What did I start?
Recommendations. Let me keep going.
No. Okay, let's pause there. Let's talk about everything we just went through. Okay. We're talking about just different things that you're gonna find in the medical record first off, but really we're actually talking about each and every individual thing, okay? I told you that as a medical assistant, great, you may do clinical stuff all day, EKGs and draw blood and do vitals and blah, blah, blah. Awesome. But you also need to be able to handle and know every part of their medical record in detail, okay? So let's think about that. Okay, let's think about that. Sorry about that. Anyway, starting with at the very top, notice that I went over SOAP with you guys, 2 class days before, okay? And I went over SOAP with you for a particular reason because it's gonna help you to understand all of this here, okay? So first thing that we need to talk about is somebody's health history. What has ever happened to you? Okay, that health history is going to be that 6,000-page thing that they give you that says, have you ever had epilepsy? No. Has your family ever had epilepsy? No. Have you ever taken drugs? No. Has your family ever taken drugs? No. Have you ever had heart disease? No. Has your family ever had heart disease? No. Okay, whatever it is. But this is going to be subjective information. And remember, I described subjective information as what the patient tells you. What has the patient told us? Because obviously they can lie. Patients do lie. Okay? But we just need to know, what has the patient told us? Okay? And based on that, we can figure out maybe where to focus on. Right? If your mama had breast cancer and her mama had breast cancer and her daddy had breast cancer and his mama had breast cancer, well, maybe when we do that physical exam, which is objective, a head-to-toe exam, maybe we need to focus a little bit more on screening for breast cancer. Because we know that you have a health history of it, or you have a family history of it. Or, you know what, I did have cancer before, but now I'm in remission. Well, yeah. Where did you have cancer? Well, I had colon cancer. Well, we need to keep an eye on that. We need to keep a close eye on that. Okay? So the health history, I told you that every part of SOAP supports the past part. What do I mean by that? I mean that we need to get the subjective in order for us to really do a very good and detailed objective. And we can't get to the assessment without first having the subjective, well, what the patient told us, plus what we saw, the objective. We can't get to an assessment before we do that. And certainly we cannot get to a plan. We cannot have a plan without the assessment, which of course needs the subjective and objective information. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. And so in that sense, we SOAP is really broken down into a lot of the things that we do. Okay. But moreover, everything isn't a one visit hitter quitter. Meaning to say that everything that you do isn't, or every patient that you see isn't going to be figured out that same day. It's not going to be figured out in that same little visit, that little 15-minute, 30-minute visit they have with the doctor. They are cured and amazing and blah, blah, blah. So we need to keep the medical record updated on to what the progress of the patient is. And so thus we have progress notes, which is basically kind of a mini SOAP note, where you've documented what has the patient told us, what did we see, has there been any improvements, okay? And we are still supporting our clinical diagnosis that you have hypertension, or that you have heart disease, that you have COPD, whatever, okay? And then we go into the medical record prescription form, okay, or particularly the medication record, I should say. All right, and so, one of you was just telling me the other day that, man, I just get so many prescriptions prescribed to me. How do they know that one thing they give me isn't opposing another thing that they give me? How do they know that I think the student said something like, I'm just going to present on something because that's his HIPAA, his or her HIPAA. So how do they know that my asthma drugs is not messing with my diabetes drugs? Okay. And it's because medication is one of the most documented things that we have. Okay, you should have not just, of course, the medication record, or a record of all the medication, a detailed information about all that medication that we prescribed you, but within that, we need to also have an OTC or RX. Who knows what RX is? Prescription. Very good. Know that prescription and OTC are different things. Okay, OTC, over the counter. You can go, oh, I got some Advil, I got some Excedrin, whatever. That's OTC. But prescription is something you have to go to the pharmacy to get. Okay, or mail, yes.
So when they ask you, are you taking any other medications, did you include those over the counter?
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't take them on a daily?
Even if you don't take them on a daily, especially if you don't. There's some things like heparin. If you're on heparin or Coumadin or warfarin treatment, something like that, you absolutely should not take most over-the-counters, which is going to be NSAIDs. Like by NSAIDs I mean non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Last month, right? So, but anyway, you shouldn't take Tylenol, aspirin, those blood thinners, because it can kill you. Okay, and so those over-the-counter medications and prescription medications are important, but moreover, we need to make sure that, especially when we get to having a rapport with the patient. One of you were telling me that, you've been at your doctor's office for 3-4 years now. Okay, and so they should have an in-depth, this is a continually evolving form of everything they've ever given you, everything that you're taking. When did you start it? When did you stop it? So on and so forth. So that's that OTC prescription form. And then that medication administration form is medications that we gave you at the office. Okay. Medications we gave you at the office. You really needed morphine because you were in pain. So that goes in that medication administration form. We have administered you this medication. Okay. And then consultation report. Consultation reports really sometimes going to be second opinions, because sometimes doctors ask other doctors for help. Okay. But more often than not, it's going to be that specialist. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, excuse me. More often than not, it's going to be that guy that they said, okay, like my daughter, she was born and she had a hard time, we thought she had a really hard time breathing. It's because she had a very bad case of acid reflux. Okay, and they sent us to the pulmonologist, a specialist of the pulmonary system, specialist of the lungs, to go and check her out. And what that pulmonologist did was fill out a consultation report and sent it to the primary care doctor, our primary care doctor, in order for her to review. Okay, so that consultation report is kind of like a soap note of its own. Okay, it's a soap note supporting all the other soap notes. Okay, because it told us in the consultation list all these great things that should be in their health history, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. What that boils down to is that they do their own soap there for that patient, okay, and they include that in their consultation report to send that back to the primary care doctor. Who did I lose? Who's going to say that again? Okay, still with me? Sweet. Home health care report. Someone else.
Hey, it's break time.
Oh, you're right. It is break time. All right. Let's go ahead and pause it there. That'll be part 1 of chapter 5.